Tonight, we journey back in time. The air is warm against your skin, carrying the gentle scent of the sea across the quiet waters of the Bay of Naples. Above you, the stars shine with remarkable clarity, scattered like tiny lanterns across an endless velvet sky. Somewhere in the distance, waves roll softly against the shore. The world feels calm, peaceful, unhurried. It is the kind of evening that seems destined to be forgotten among thousands of ordinary nights. But this night will never be forgotten. As you settle into this journey, stay with me all the way to the end. Waiting for us is a remarkable discovery hidden within the story itself, a fascinating glimpse into Pompeii that many people never learn about, a final reflection that may forever change how you think about history, time, and the fragile beauty of everyday life. For now, though, none of that is known. Tonight, the city sleeps beneath a sky full of stars. Children drift into dreams behind painted walls. Merchants finish counting their coins. Bakers prepare dough for the morning market. Fishermen secure their boats along the harbor. Families gather around evening meals, sharing stories, laughter, and simple moments they believe will return again tomorrow. The people of Pompeii do not know that they are living through the final chapter of a world that has existed for generations. And perhaps that is what makes their story so deeply human. Because none of us ever know which ordinary day will become extraordinary. None of us know when a familiar street, a beloved home, or a casual conversation will quietly become a memory. The people of Pompeii were not legends. They were not kings commanding vast armies. They were not heroes expecting their names to echo through history. They were mothers soothing restless children, fathers returning home from work, young lovers making plans for the future, friends sharing wine beneath the fading light of sunset. They worried about bills, relationships, business, harvests, and tomorrow's responsibilities. They laughed. They argued. They dreamed. And tonight, all of those dreams feel perfectly safe. As we walk these ancient streets together, try to imagine not a distant civilization, but a living city filled with people remarkably similar to ourselves. Listen carefully. Can you hear the faint clatter of cartwheels against stone roads? Can you hear conversations drifting from open windows? Can you smell fresh bread emerging from ovens that have worked since before sunrise? Every sound, every scent, every flickering lamp belongs to a world still very much alive. The streets of Pompeii stretch before us, illuminated by moonlight and scattered lanterns. Elegant villas stand beside modest homes. Taverns welcome their final customers of the evening. Public fountains continue their endless flow of fresh water. Painted advertisements decorate walls. Graffiti left by ordinary citizens covers corners and alleyways, preserving jokes, declarations of love, political opinions, and fragments of everyday life. In many ways, Pompeii is one of the most familiar ancient cities ever discovered. Not because it was extraordinary, but because it was ordinary. And it is often the ordinary moments that touch us most deeply. The city rests in the shadow of a mountain called Vesuvius. To modern ears, the name carries immediate meaning. We know what is coming. We know the story. We know the disaster that waits just beyond the horizon. But the people living here do not. To them, Vesuvius is simply part of the landscape, a towering presence overlooking vineyards, farms, and prosperous communities. Its slopes produce rich harvests. Its fertile soil helps create some of the finest wines in the Roman world. The mountain feels permanent, predictable, almost comforting. Yet beneath that quiet appearance, forces are gathering that no one can see. Far below the surface, the earth itself is slowly preparing to speak. And when it does, it will alter history forever. But tonight, We are not here to witness destruction. We are here to remember life. We are here to walk beside the people who lived, worked, loved, and dreamed in this remarkable place. We are here to experience the final peaceful hours before everything changed. So take a slow, gentle breath. Allow your shoulders to relax. Let the worries of today drift away like distant waves upon the bay. The year is AD 79. The Roman Empire stretches across much of the known world. And before us lies one of its brightest jewels. A thriving city filled with life, beauty, ambition, and hope. The lamps are still burning. The streets are still busy. The future still feels certain. And our journey through the last evening of Pompeii is only just beginning. The golden light of evening slowly fades across Pompeii. The sun sinks toward the horizon beyond the Bay of Naples, painting the sky with shades of amber and violet. Long shadows stretch across the streets as the heat of the day begins to fade. This is one of the most pleasant hours in Pompeii. Many residents have finished their work. Shopkeepers linger outside their businesses. Laborers return home after long hours spent carrying goods, tending vineyards, or repairing buildings. As we wander through the city, it becomes easy to understand why Pompeii was such a desirable place to live. The streets beneath our feet are paved with stones worn smooth by generations of footsteps. Merchants, travelers, slaves, and wealthy citizens have all walked these roads. There is a steady rhythm here. A pulse that feels both ancient and familiar. Raised stepping stones cross many streets. They allowed pedestrians to move above the wastewater that often flowed through the roads while still leaving room for carts to pass. Even today, grooves left by wagon wheels remain visible in the stone. Ordinary journeys became part of the city itself. Nearby, water flows from public fountains. Citizens fill clay jars, pause for conversation, or enjoy a cool drink as evening settles over the city. A baker removes fresh loaves from a large oven. The aroma drifts through the air. Archaeologists have even discovered carbonized loaves preserved by the eruption, offering a remarkable glimpse into daily life on the city's final day. As evening deepens, taverns and food stalls welcome their last customers. Friends gather over wine. Travelers seek a meal before resting for the night. Conversations drift through open doorways as people discuss business, local news, and everyday concerns. One of the most fascinating discoveries in Pompeii comes from the walls themselves. Messages appear almost everywhere. Political advertisements, greetings, jokes, declarations of affection, admiration for favorite gladiators. These ancient graffiti preserve voices that would otherwise have been lost forever. Perhaps the most moving thing about them is how ordinary they feel. Across 2,000 years, a joke, a complaint, or a declaration of love still feels familiar. For a moment, the people of Pompeii seem less like historical figures and more like neighbors. As darkness approaches, lanterns begin to glow throughout the city. Their warm light dances across painted walls and stone streets. Families prepare supper. Others return home after spending time in the public baths. The sounds of commerce gradually fade, replaced by the quieter rhythm of evening life. The city is still recovering from an earthquake that struck years earlier. Some buildings remain under repair. Yet life continues. Businesses reopen. Families adapt. The city moves forward. No one knows what waits beyond the horizon. The marketplace begins to empty. Shop shutters close. Footsteps grow less frequent. The stars appear one by one above the rooftops. And beneath the silent silhouette of Mount Vesuvius, Pompeii settles into another ordinary night. Or at least, what everyone believes will be an ordinary night. The mountain stands quiet in the distance. Oil lamps flicker behind windows. Gentle conversations drift through the streets. And throughout the city, thousands of people continue their lives completely unaware that future generations will one day walk these same roads and wonder what it felt like to stand exactly where they stood. For this brief moment, suspended between day and night, Pompeii is still whole. Still thriving. Still dreaming. And the night has only just begun. As evening settles more deeply over Pompeii, let us leave the busy streets behind and step quietly into a Roman home. The sounds of the city soften almost immediately. Outside, distant conversations drift through the streets, accompanied by the occasional rumble of cartwheels and the gentle splash of water from public fountains. Inside, another world awaits, one shaped by family, routine, and the small rituals that transform a building into a home. For the people of Pompeii, home was the center of daily life. It was where families gathered to share meals, discuss business, raise children, and plan for the future beneath the glow of oil lamps. Archaeology has given us an extraordinary opportunity to enter these homes long after their owners disappeared. Unlike many ancient cities that were rebuilt repeatedly over centuries, Pompeii was frozen in time. Walls survived. Decorations remained. Everyday objects were left where they had last been placed. As we step into one of the city's wealthier homes, known as a domus, the first thing we notice is the atrium. Part of the roof remains open to the sky, allowing rainwater to collect in a basin below. Even in the fading light of evening, the space feels welcoming. Oil lamps flicker softly across painted walls. Many Pompeian homes were decorated with colorful frescoes showing gardens, landscapes, and scenes from mythology. In the shifting lamplight, these painted worlds seem almost alive. Further inside lies a private garden. Many homes contained enclosed courtyards filled with plants, fountains, and sculptures. The gentle sound of flowing water offered a peaceful escape from the activity of the city beyond the walls. One can easily imagine a family gathering here after dinner. Children playing. Parents talking quietly. Grandparents sharing stories. The simple comfort of being together. Not every resident lived in such luxury, of course. Pompeii was home to people from many different social classes. While some occupied spacious villas, others lived in smaller homes or apartments above shops. Rooms were often crowded. Privacy was limited. Yet even modest homes reveal signs of care and personal pride. Decorations appeared on walls. Simple furnishings were maintained. Families made the best of the spaces they had, just as people have throughout history. One particularly fascinating feature found in many homes was the lararium. These household shrines honored protective spirits and family deities. Families might pause there for a brief prayer, a small offering, or a quiet moment of gratitude before ending the day. As darkness deepens outside, evening routines begin. Some children are already asleep. Others listen to stories told by parents or grandparents. Without electric lights or modern entertainment, conversation played an important role in daily life. Stories were shared. News was exchanged. Memories were passed from one generation to the next. Of course, there is much we can never know. We can study the homes and the objects left behind, but the thoughts of their owners have vanished with time. We do not know who was excited about tomorrow, who worried about money, who dreamed of travel, who sat quietly reflecting on a life already filled with memories. Across the city, thousands of private moments unfold. To those living them, they seem ordinary. Yet history is often hidden inside ordinary moments. No one realizes that future generations will one day walk through these rooms searching for traces of their lives. For now, these homes are simply homes. Places of comfort. Places of safety. Places where people believe tomorrow will arrive just as it always has. The oil lamps continue to burn softly. The gardens remain peaceful. Families prepare for rest. And beneath the silent presence of Mount Vesuvius, the heart of Pompeii beats steadily through the night. Warm. Alive. Unaware. Holding tightly to the belief that there will always be another morning. The evening has grown quieter now. Across Pompeii, the last traces of sunlight have disappeared beyond the horizon. Oil lamps glow behind windows and doorways, casting warm pools of light onto stone streets. For many families, one of the most comforting moments of the day has finally arrived. It is time to eat. There is something deeply human about the evening meal. Across centuries and cultures, people have gathered around food to share stories, celebrate successes, discuss worries, and enjoy the company of those around them. The people of Pompeii were no different. Tonight, the aroma of food drifts through the city. Fresh bread, roasted vegetables, herbs from nearby gardens, fish from the bay, wine poured into waiting cups. The eruption that buried Pompeii also preserved remarkable evidence of what its residents ate. Archaeologists have discovered carbonized loaves of bread, fruits, grains, olives, and traces of meals that reveal a surprisingly varied diet. Let us begin at a bakery. Warmth still lingers around the ovens. Grain has been ground into flour, dough kneaded by hand, and loaves baked for customers across the city. One of Pompeii's most famous discoveries is a loaf of bread preserved exactly where it was left nearly 2,000 years ago. Someone baked it expecting it to be eaten the next day. Instead, it survived as a message from the past. As we continue through the city, we encounter something many visitors do not expect. Pompeii had its own version of fast food. Throughout the city were food counters known today as thermopolia. Large jars were built into stone counters, allowing vendors to serve prepared meals and drinks to customers throughout the day. Imagine stopping here after work. Neighbors exchange greetings. Travelers share news. A simple meal is served while conversation flows naturally among strangers and friends alike. For wealthier families dining at home, meals could become elaborate social occasions. Guests reclined on couches around low tables while servants brought courses one after another. Business relationships were strengthened. Friendships deepened. Conversations stretched long into the evening. Yet even among the wealthy, many favorite foods were surprisingly simple. Bread remained a daily staple. Vegetables appeared regularly on the table. Olive oil added flavor to countless dishes. And wine accompanied much of Roman social life. The fertile volcanic soil surrounding Mount Vesuvius supported thriving vineyards that supplied wine to the region and beyond. Tonight, workers return from those vineyards beneath the moonlight, unaware of the mountain's future role in their story. The food is served. The wine is poured. Life feels secure. Studies of skeletal remains suggest that many Pompeians enjoyed diets rich in grains, seafood, fruits, and vegetables. Trade networks brought additional ingredients from across the Roman world, connecting the city to distant regions of the empire. Now imagine a family gathered around their evening meal. A father recounts events from the marketplace. A mother discusses tomorrow's plans. Children share stories of friends and games. An elderly grandparent listens quietly, occasionally offering advice gathered through years of experience. The oil lamps flicker gently. Outside, the sounds of the city gradually soften. Inside, there is warmth, comfort, belonging. Most people in Pompeii were not making history. They were sharing meals, raising families, working hard, finding happiness where they could. And nowhere is that more visible than around the dinner table. As the evening progresses, some families prepare for sleep. Others linger over conversation. Across the city, thousands of meals come to an end. Thousands of plans are made for tomorrow. Thousands of people settle into what feels like another ordinary night. Leave a quiet crescent moon in the comments if you're still awake and enjoying the journey. The night grows deeper. Bread baskets are cleared away. Wine cups slowly empty. Doors begin to close. Families retreat into the comfort of their homes. Above them, the stars continue their silent journey across the sky. And beyond the city, Mount Vesuvius stands motionless in the darkness. Silent. Patient. Watching over a city that believes it has many more peaceful evenings ahead. For now, Pompeii remains wrapped in warmth and contentment. The tables are full. The homes are alive with conversation. And the final ordinary night continues beneath the shadow of the mountain. As the last traces of dinner fade and the city settles deeper into night, something shifts in the atmosphere above Pompeii. Not dramatically. Not in a way that would immediately draw attention. But if you were standing still enough, listening closely enough, you might begin to sense that the earth here has a long memory, and sometimes it speaks in quiet warnings long before it roars. Tonight, that memory belongs to Mount Vesuvius. For the people of Pompeii, the mountain is familiar, constant, part of the skyline as natural as the sea itself. Its green slopes rise gently beyond the city, covered in vineyards, farms, and scattered villages. It is not feared in any meaningful way. In fact, it is admired. Its soil is rich, dark, and fertile, perfect for growing grapes that produce wine enjoyed across the Roman world. But beneath that peaceful appearance lies something the people of AD 79 do not fully understand. We know today, through modern geology, that Vesuvius is a stratovolcano formed by layers of hardened lava, ash, and rock built up over thousands of years of eruptions. But in the Roman world, this scientific understanding did not exist. The mountain was interpreted through myth, philosophy, and observation, but not volcanology. Some educated Romans may have suspected that unusual forces existed beneath the region. Earthquakes were not uncommon. Steam sometimes rose from the ground. Warm springs bubbled in nearby areas. But these were not connected into a clear warning system of what Vesuvius truly was capable of. And so life continued, even after earlier disasters. Because just 17 years before this night, in AD 62, a powerful earthquake struck the region. Historical accounts, including references preserved by ancient writers like Seneca, describe widespread destruction in Pompeii and surrounding towns. Buildings collapsed. Temples were damaged. Infrastructure suffered serious harm. And yet, the city rebuilt. In fact, archaeological evidence shows that reconstruction was still ongoing in AD 79. Some buildings remained partially repaired. Others showed signs of ongoing work. Scaffolding, restoration, and architectural adjustments suggest a city still recovering, still healing, still investing in its future. To the people of Pompeii, the earthquake was a tragedy, but not an end. Earthquakes, in their experience, were unsettling but survivable. They did not necessarily signal a greater disaster waiting beneath the ground. And so, even as Vesuvius remained quietly present on the horizon, life resumed its normal rhythm. In the days leading up to this night, there may have been subtle signs. Small tremors. Unusual animal behavior. Minor disturbances in the earth. But according to historical accounts, most notably the letters of Pliny the Younger, who would later witness the eruption from a distance, there was no widely recognized sense of impending catastrophe until the event began in earnest. Pliny's writings, which remain one of the most important primary sources for understanding the eruption, describe what happened in AD 79. However, he does not record a dramatic warning on the evening before. Instead, the eruption appears to have begun after a period of relative calm. This is important to remember. There is no strong historical evidence suggesting that the people of Pompeii spent the night before the eruption in fear or anticipation. Instead, they appear to have treated it as just another night. A warm summer evening. The kind of night that asks nothing of the imagination except rest. Modern science helps us understand what was happening beneath the surface. Magmatic pressure was building within the volcano's chamber. Gases were accumulating. Rock structures were weakening. But all of this was hidden deep underground and visible to the people living their lives above it. From their perspective, Vesuvius remained unchanged. Still. Familiar. Almost gentle in its presence. As night deepens across Pompeii, we can imagine what that final ordinary evening must have felt like. Families settling into sleep. Oil lamps being extinguished one by one. Dogs curling up in courtyards. The distant sound of conversation fading into silence. Somewhere in the countryside, workers finish late tasks before returning home. Somewhere in the city, a traveler finds rest in an inn after a long journey. Life continues exactly as it always has. And yet, beneath all of this quiet normality, the earth is preparing for a transformation that no one can see. But it is important to resist the temptation to turn this moment into suspense or fear. Because the people of Pompeii were not living in dread. They were living in certainty. A certainty built from experience. From memory. From a world that, until now, had always continued in predictable ways. Even after earthquakes, life returned. Even after repairs, cities were rebuilt. Even after hardship, the future always arrived. So tonight, there is no reason to believe anything different. Mount Vesuvius stands quietly in the darkness. Its silhouette barely visible beneath the stars. Its slopes calm. Its presence almost reassuring in its familiarity. And beneath that calm, an entire city drifts towards sleep. Unaware. Unprepared. And completely at peace. The kind of peace that only exists in the moments before the world changes without warning. But for now, there is only silence. Only night. Only Pompeii, breathing softly beneath the shadow of a mountain that has not yet revealed what it is capable of. The night over Pompeii deepens further now. The warmth of the day has fully released its grip, and the city settles into a quieter rhythm, one that feels almost suspended, as if time itself has slowed to match the gentle pulse of sleeping streets. Oil lamps flicker in their final hours. Voices have softened into whispers. Doors are closed, bolted, and secured. The world inside Pompeii feels contained, safe, familiar. Above it all, Mount Vesuvius remains unchanged. Or at least, it appears unchanged. Because in this moment, perception and reality are no longer aligned. We are now stepping into the threshold between what people believed and what was already beginning to unfold beyond their understanding. Modern science tells us that beneath Vesuvius, deep within the Earth's crust, magma had been accumulating pressure over a long period of time. Gas-rich molten rock was slowly rising through fractures, trapped beneath layers of solidified lava from earlier eruptions. Over time, this pressure can reach a critical point, though no human in AD 79 had the tools to measure it, or even the language to describe it. But tonight, in Pompeii, none of that is visible. There are no flames, no ash, no warning sky. Just the same mountain that has always been there. In fact, for many residents, Vesuvius is not even associated with danger in any meaningful way. It is part of identity, part of landscape, part of life. Its slopes are productive, its soil generous, its presence constant. If anything, it represents stability rather than threat. And yet, history often reminds us that stability is sometimes only an illusion stretched across time. We must be careful here not to impose fear onto this night. Because according to our best historical sources, especially the detailed eyewitness letters of Pliny the Younger, there is no clear evidence that the people of Pompeii experienced this evening as anything other than ordinary. Pliny was not in Pompeii itself, but across the Bay of Naples. From his account, we learn about what would happen soon after this peaceful night ends, but not about widespread panic or ominous signs on the evening before. What we can responsibly say is that the eruption began suddenly the following day, after a period of relative calm. That detail matters, because it reminds us that the tragedy of Pompeii was not born from ignorance alone, but from the unpredictability of natural systems far larger than human understanding at the time. Even earlier seismic activity in the region, including the major earthquake of AD 62, did not lead to a clear interpretation of volcanic danger. Earthquakes were known, feared, and respected, but they were not scientifically linked to volcanic eruption processes as they are today. Repairs were made. Homes were rebuilt. Life continued. And so, on this night, there is no widespread expectation of catastrophe. Instead, there is rest. There is routine. There is the quiet comfort of a city finishing another day. Somewhere in Pompeii, a family extinguishes their final lamp, leaving the room in soft darkness lit only by moonlight filtering through an open courtyard. Elsewhere, a merchant counts the last of the day's earnings before placing them in a secure container. A traveler adjusts their cloak and settles into sleep in a modest inn. A child turns over in bed, already dreaming of tomorrow's small joys. And in homes across the city, people drift into sleep with the same assumption held by all human beings throughout history: that tomorrow will come. Outside, the streets grow still. The stepping stones, the fountains, the worn grooves in ancient roads, all of it rests beneath the quiet sky. Even the air itself feels unmoving, as if the world is holding a slow breath. And above it, Vesuvius stands like a shadow carved into the horizon. Not alive in any human sense. Not aware. Not intentional. Just a mountain, shaped by forces older than civilization itself. But beneath that stillness, unseen and unspoken, the earth continues its long, patient work. Pressure builds in places no eye can see. Energy gathers in silence. Not as a message. Not as a warning. But simply as a process of nature unfolding according to its own laws. For now, none of this belongs to the people of Pompeii. Their world is still defined by what they can see, touch, and understand. And what they see tonight is peace. What they feel tonight is safety. What they believe tonight is continuity. So they sleep. They dream. They rest beneath painted ceilings and quiet courtyards, beneath oil lamps now extinguished, beneath streets that will soon become frozen in time. And above them, the mountain remains silent, holding its secret a little longer, until the morning that will change everything begins to break across the horizon. Morning arrives slowly over the Bay of Naples. At first, there is nothing remarkable about it. The horizon brightens with soft shades of gold and pale blue. Gentle waves roll toward the shoreline as they have every day before. Birds begin their morning songs. Farmers wake before sunrise to prepare for another day in the fields. Bakers return to their ovens. Merchants begin opening their shops. For the people of Pompeii, it appears to be another ordinary day. Doors open. Footsteps echo through the streets. Water flows from public fountains. The city awakens. And yet, beneath the mountain overlooking the region, forces that have been gathering for centuries are approaching a breaking point. What happened next is one of the most studied volcanic events in history. Much of what we know comes from archaeology, geology, and the writings of Pliny the Younger, who witnessed the disaster from across the bay. His letters remain among our most valuable sources, though many details of that day are still uncertain. What historians generally agree upon is that sometime during the day, Mount Vesuvius erupted with tremendous force. High above the mountain, a vast column of ash, gas, and volcanic material surged into the sky. Pliny compared its shape to a pine tree, rising upward before spreading outward into broad branches. Imagine standing in Pompeii and looking toward the mountain. One moment, the familiar silhouette of Vesuvius dominates the landscape. The next, an immense cloud is climbing higher and higher into the heavens. At first, confusion likely spreads faster than fear. People stop what they are doing. Conversations pause. Eyes turn toward the mountain. Some wonder if it is a strange weather event. Others simply stare in disbelief. After all, no one living in Pompeii has witnessed anything quite like this before. As the hours pass, volcanic material begins falling from the sky. Small fragments of pumice descend onto rooftops, streets, gardens, and courtyards. At first, some residents may simply watch with curiosity. But the accumulation continues. Slowly, steadily, relentlessly. The streets begin changing. Roofs grow heavier. Visibility becomes increasingly difficult. The familiar city starts disappearing beneath a blanket of volcanic debris. Archaeological evidence suggests that many people attempted to flee. Others chose to remain. Some gathered possessions. Some searched for loved ones. Some believed sheltering inside their homes was the safest option. These were not irrational decisions. People were responding to a situation unlike anything they had previously experienced. And every choice was made without knowing what would happen next. Across the bay, Pliny the Younger observes the growing cloud. His uncle, the Roman admiral Pliny the Elder, organizes ships and sails toward the affected area, hoping to investigate the phenomenon and assist those in danger. He never returned. His death during the disaster would become one of the most remembered episodes of the eruption. Meanwhile, conditions in Pompeii continue to worsen. Ash darkens the sky. Daylight fades into an eerie twilight. Markets close. Businesses cease operating. Families gather together. Questions multiply faster than answers. And still, the mountain continues. The earth releases energy that has accumulated over countless generations. Not out of anger. Not out of intention. Simply because that is what volcanoes do. As darkness returns, the situation grows increasingly difficult. The weight of volcanic debris damages structures throughout the city. Travel becomes harder. Escape routes become less certain. Still, many continue searching for safety. Archaeology reveals evidence of people protecting loved ones, carrying valuables, and making difficult decisions under extraordinary circumstances. These discoveries remind us of something important. The people of Pompeii were not passive figures frozen in time. They made choices. They adapted. They hoped. They endured. Even as circumstances became increasingly uncertain. For generations, Pompeii has often been remembered only as a disaster. But the deeper we look, the more human the story becomes. Parents trying to protect children. Friends refusing to abandon one another. Families staying together. Neighbors sharing information. Thousands of individual lives unfolding at the same moment. As night falls once more across the region, the city that awakened to an ordinary morning no longer resembles the place we visited the evening before. The familiar streets are hidden. The marketplaces are silent. The routines of daily life have vanished. And yet, the humanity of Pompeii remains. In every home later uncovered. In every inscription preserved on a wall. In every object left behind. The morning that began like any other had become a day that history would never forget. And then, gradually, silence returned. Not the gentle silence of an ordinary evening. Not the peaceful quiet that settles over a sleeping city. This was a deeper silence. A silence measured not in hours or days, but in centuries. The voices of Pompeii disappeared. The footsteps ceased. The laughter that once drifted through courtyards faded into memory. Above them, layers of volcanic ash settled across streets, homes, gardens, temples, workshops, and marketplaces. The city that had once thrived beneath the warm Mediterranean sun vanished from sight. And then the world moved on. Generations came and went. The Roman Empire changed and eventually faded into history. New kingdoms emerged. Languages evolved. Yet beneath the earth, Pompeii remained. Waiting. Sleeping. Preserved in darkness. For nearly 17 centuries, the city lay hidden beneath the landscape. Most people forgot it had ever existed. Its exact location faded from memory. Ancient writers mentioned the disaster, but Pompeii became little more than a name from a distant past. Then, centuries later, the city slowly returned to the light. Excavators uncovered streets, homes, gardens, paintings, everyday objects resting where they had last been placed. It was as though an ordinary Roman city had been preserved in a single moment and delivered across time. And perhaps that is why Pompeii continues to captivate us. Not because of the disaster alone, but because of the people. The baker tending his oven. The merchant opening his shop. The child playing in a courtyard. The family gathering for an evening meal. The countless ordinary lives that once filled these streets. As our journey comes to its close, let us return one final time to that peaceful evening before the eruption. The streets are still busy. The baker is still tending his ovens. Children are still laughing in courtyards. Neighbors are still sharing stories beneath the warm glow of oil lamps. The sea breeze still drifts through the city. The stars still shine above the Bay of Naples. And Mount Vesuvius still stands quietly in the distance. The people of Pompeii do not know what tomorrow holds. But perhaps that is not the most important part of their story. Perhaps the most important part is that they lived. They loved. They worked. They dreamed. They experienced joy, uncertainty, friendship, hope, disappointment, and wonder, just as we do today. Across nearly 2,000 years, their lives reach out to us with a simple reminder. Every ordinary day is precious. Every shared meal matters. Every conversation becomes part of a story larger than we can see. Most of us will never know which moments will be remembered, which words will echo, which memories will endure. The people of Pompeii certainly did not know. Yet here we are, still walking their streets, still reading their messages, still listening to their voices carried across centuries. In a strange and beautiful way, they never completely disappeared. The city slept beneath the ash. But its story survived. And through that story, the people survived as well. The lamps may have gone out. The streets may have fallen silent. The centuries may have passed. Yet Pompeii continues to whisper. Not about destruction, but about life. About the fragile beauty of ordinary human existence. And as the stars shine once more above the Bay of Naples, we quietly leave the city behind. The voices grow distant. The journey comes to an end. Thank you for spending part of your evening with Serene Echoes. Until next time, rest well and let history whisper you to sleep.